Is this for a longer term? And all that. Do you see where the gas reimbursement went to overseas?
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. We have a number of items on the agenda today that we are very interested in, and I'm sure a lot of you are. We're all in our places, and as I said earlier in the day, the smiles were there, the sunshiny faces were there, and we're ready to act on behalf of the citizens of Forsyth County. And we have several folks in the Commissioners' meeting room who are here to observe or participate. Either way, we hope that this meets with your approval, and that if it doesn't meet with anybody's approval, you just want to watch it for entertainment, that's even better. But we want you to stay and keep an eye on us. Now, having said all of that, the meeting cannot start today unless we introduce Dr. Don Martin, who is the Vice Chairman of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, and we'll turn the meeting over now to Mr. Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Chairman Plyler. We're actually going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Pastor Stan Simpf from Calvary Baptist Church, and he will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner McDaniel. And please stand if you are able.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you for today, such a beautiful day. It's very easy to be thankful for today. Thankful for the rain you sent us yesterday, much needed. Thank you for that. Thank you for this meeting here today, where everyone in the room seeks the betterment of our county. I love this county, been here since 1971. So, Lord, we thank you. I thank you for all these folks who have volunteered their time and effort and energy to seek the betterment of this place. So, Lord, we just commit this time to you. Pray that everything said and done would, again, seek the welfare of our county. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Simpf. Appreciate you being here. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, if you're going on the telephone, please call 336-422-1200, and you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins, and that number again is 336-422-1200. And anyone here in person who interested in speaking during the public session portion, please fill out a speaker card. They're on a little table outside the meeting room, and give it to our clerk, Ashley Sloop. In fact, you could even do that now if you haven't already done it. Now we're going to hear our every meeting update from Joshua Smith, our Public Health Director, on sort of this COVID status. He's been doing that for years now. So thank you, Joshua.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Excuse me while I pull up the report. All right. Okay, a quick update for COVID, and also have two slides regarding monkeypox. Our COVID update for the 14th of July, over the last 14 days in the county, we have had an increase of just 2% in the number of cases. We're staying, you'll see in a minute, about between 700 and 800 confirmed cases per week. Our deaths have increased 220%, so we did see an uptick there, and our hospitalizations have went up. We had 22 last week Forsyth County residents in Forsyth hospitals with COVID. That's now 30. Some of the numbers across the state and across the nation. In North Carolina, cases have went up 111% in the last 2 weeks, deaths up 138%, and hospitalizations up 19%. I would, caution that the deaths we're dealing with lower numbers, so any increase just from a ratio standpoint is going to look higher, but we are seeing a few more. Across the U.S., cases up 16%, deaths up 11%, and hospitalizations up the same as the state, 19%. This happened every Thursday, so this could change this evening, but every Thursday the CDC looks at their community level based on your cases in your community and your hospitalizations. You probably heard in the news, me and Dr. O have some discussion since we're a large county, but we also have 2 hospitals. So sometimes that may make us look a little worse as far as the CDC community levels go. But per the CDC community level, right now, the way it is, it's applied to every county across the state and nation. We're in the high level where, there's no mandates, but people are encouraged to wear a mask indoors. I would tell people, that's a choice they have to make based on their risk level, based on the situation where you are. There's a big difference between being in an open room than being in a small, a subway or a taxi with 3 or 4 other people for a 20 or 30-minute ride. So there's a difference there. And also, again, we tell people the best thing they can do to protect themselves is stay up to date on their vaccine. Boosters, you're hearing more in the news about pretty soon it's going to come out. We believe that a broad statement to say anyone over 50 should get a booster. And I'm sure you can all, and I myself am hearing and just talking to people before this meeting, this person, they have a parent, elderly parent that's gotten COVID. This person has gotten COVID. A friend of mine I just found out this week. So I'm sure you can all think of people, you're hearing about people with COVID. So a little bit of information about our cases. Again, this is since the beginning, March of 2020. Like the Vice Chairman said, I've been coming here quite 2.5 years now. So, but you can see the cases, and we're staying in that 700-800 cases per week. Again, that's not cases that are at-home tests. That's cases where you go to your doctor's office, you take a COVID test, you go to CVS or some fashion like that, not where you get the at-home test and you do it yourself. And you can see the exact number, excuse me, I have it in this sheet, was 744 cases the week of July 3rd. Next slide looks at our percent positivity. Again, this could be skewed somewhat because this is only lab confirmed tests, and because, more the people that are going to get the at-home test versus the in-home test. I think a lot of times people will take the at-home test, get a positive, and then want to confirm that. So that means that would increase the positivity rate, and you can see it's 25.6% the week of July 3rd. So next, just 2 more slides. This is just a brief update about monkeypox. We've got 1,053 cases in the U.S., 10 cases in North Carolina, no cases in Forsyth that we know of yet. We have the vaccine. It was pre-positioned at 7 health departments across the state. Some of you probably saw the state put out a press release regarding that. It was Buncombe County in the west, us, Mecklenburg County, you had Durham County, I think I already said Mecklenburg, and Wake, Pitt, and New Hanover. So geographically distributed across the county, not based on risk of our citizens, but just it's out there in the community, monkeypox, and we're wanting to be prepared and it can distribute the vaccine. The vaccine can prevent illness or help have less severe symptoms if given within 2 weeks after someone is exposed. And we have the vaccine, but because of limited supply, we only got 80 doses. We've given out one of those doses, and then we've also are transferring some doses. So we have this for people who haven't been in close physical contact with someone diagnosed with monkeypox, or the MSM, or men who have sex with men, or transgender individuals who have multiple or anonymous sex partners in the last 14 days. So That's the high-risk groups, and we are hearing that there'll be more vaccine available in the near future coming down from the federal and state level. And that concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
This comes from my file. Nobody's asked me about it until yesterday. My phone rang and a lady says, "Well, Mr. Planner?" I said, "You can call me Dave if you want to." She's, "All right, Dave, I want to know." Okay, fire away. How do I know I got monkeypox? And what's that like? Is it like chicken pox? Do I sweat? Do I get a fever? Do I not have any energy? I said, "Ma'am, I've got good news for you." She said, "What's that?" I said, "I'm not the one you need to talk to about that." So, knowing that we were going to have this meeting today and you were going to be here, what are the symptoms of monkeypox? And by the way, it's surprising to me, we've got something like, 380, 500,000 people in this country, and you've got 80 doses, right? Holy mackerel, what we're going to do now. So maybe you can help me with that.
Well, the best thing I would tell people is to talk to their healthcare provider. Right now, those most at risk are people in the LGBTQ community who've had close contact with another person that has monkeypox. The symptoms could be lesions on the genitals areas, or it could be, we've seen some information where a person has something that's on their arm that looks like a bug bite or something like that. So it can, or it can be more severe. If you just Google monkeypox, it can look like a huge rash with lesions on someone's arms or a leg or any part of their body. But we would encourage, right now, those are the high-risk groups that we're focusing on, but would encourage someone, because I will say, yes, now the focus is on that community, the LGBTQ community, but this could easily, we're seeing it in Europe, where children, their parents have it, well, then the children go to school, and then other kids are getting it. So it's not confined to that population. It's just showing up in that population now. That makes sense.
Do you run a fever?
Yes, you can have fever and lots of aches and pains.
Is there anything you can be outside the vaccination take for it?
There, I believe, are some medications, but the vaccine is primarily to prevent the disease from happening. Once you've had once you have monkeypox, you don't get the vaccine.
If you're a young person, are you more prone to get it than you would if you were an older person, or vice versa?
I think it's more dependent on the behavior, what the risky behavior of the person and who they're in contact with. The other thing is, it's right now what we're seeing is it's non-fatal, but that's.
I know this is a dumb question, but they call one of these poxes chicken pox. That doesn't come from chickens. What does monkeypox come from? The activity within the gay community?
Well, I think it can, like I said, it can be with anyone in the community now. I believe it's showing up in that community. I think a lot of reasons, primarily for decades, we've had a lot of outreach into the LGBT community with HIV and AIDS testing, so there's more likelihood to get tested and seek medical care. But, we have seen it in other countries spread in wildlife, not just monkeys, but other wildlife where people have eaten those animals. They call it bush meat. But I think, this is not something to be alarmed, but we're just trying to, there's a lot of interest and we want to make the public
If
aware.
it's not treated, is it fatal?
Right now, we don't know that. I'm sure there have been cases, but what we're seeing now in North America with the cases, there haven't been any fatalities.
I'm glad you came in today. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I have one quick question. On all the boosters, is it likely that that's going to become an every 6-month sort of recommendation?
Well, what we're hearing now is from the CDC. We think in the fall, coming in October, there'll be a booster, as you said, and it'll be specifically for the Omicron variants, because that's what we're seeing in the community. BA4, BA5 is throughout North Carolina and North America. So that's what we anticipate. How often you'll get that booster, that's an excellent question. I wonder if it'll be below this age once a year, above this age, twice a year. I think it could get to that point, but they're still working through that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Joshua?
Thank you.
As always, thank you for being here. The first item on our agenda is approval of minutes of the meeting on June 23rd, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Chairman Plyler, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone for the public session on the telephone?
Mr. Vice Chairman, we don't have anyone on the phone or speaker cards.
Oh, no speaker cards and no one on the phone.
No, sir.
All righty. Well, Mr. County Manager, please continue our review of the agenda, and we'll take actions as required.
Good, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and good afternoon, board members and staff and guests. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these in briefing sessions and hopefully have answered all your questions. I'll go ahead and dive into it. Agenda item 3 is an amendment to the 2020 radio system upgrade capital projects ordinance to appropriate the city of Winston-Salem's share of the total project cost of that. And that, as you know, that project's been ongoing for a long time. This essentially recognizes the city's share of $8,573,503.
Move approval.
Motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, very good. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Soil and Water Conservation Division to apply for and accept, if awarded, a stream flow rehabilitation assistance program grant for a watershed restoration project. This is on the upper end of Town Fork Creek. It's structure number 5. It is some county-owned property, and the grant amount's $80,000.
Move approval.
Motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 5 is a resolution to reallocate a portion of Imprints Cares ARPA funding to allow for the purchase of a facility to house the Family Resource Center for Children with Special Needs and Expanded Learning Staff. This amount would take, of the ARPA allocation, it would take $717,000, and it would allow them to purchase 711 Coliseum Place Court.
Move to approve.
I have
Second.
a motion to approve by Chairman Plyler and Commissioner McDaniel. Is there a second, please? Second by Commissioner Elamine.
Title will be held by Imprints Cares, I believe.
Any further discussion? We're going to get an answer to that. Probably going to be by Imprints Cares, it's their building.
Right, we're essentially granting them funds to allow for the purchase of it, and my understanding is they would be purchasing that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item, we've got several contract matters. Agenda item 6 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for the purchase of a new Ford F-550 cab and chassis with 12-foot walk-around body to Custom Truck and Body Works, not to exceed amounts $219,710.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 7 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for the purchase of a Class 3 Type 1 ambulance to Northwestern Emergency Vehicles Incorporated. As you know, we've had a hard time with that supply chain there, and we were glad to get a number of bids on this. The lowest responsive bid was from Northwestern Emergency Vehicles Incorporated in the amount of $244,828.
Move approval.
Motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 8 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for the repair of ambulance unit number 22 with Northwestern Emergency Vehicles Incorporated. There were a number of questions about the insurance side of things. Kirby, can you come up and just, we huddled up as staff to kind of talk through this particular matter. The repair cost on this, which is high, but it really does put a new chassis under a box. And so if you compare the 244,828 to take delivery of a new vehicle versus the 151 for the repair, we do end up with a fairly new vehicle. The amount's $151,024. So.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Manager. I can essentially, I think a lot of the questions regarding our insurance process. And if it's okay, I can sort of step through that process, I understand, from the risk manager if you like, or I can answer any specific questions the board has.
Yeah, the bottom line is we are pursuing it from the other party if possible, and we'll go to all those efforts, and we do that all the time. When it is when we've, North Carolina's I think it's is a no-fault state. I don't know if I'm saying that exactly right. We are not a no-fault state. So if you are 1%, responsible, then you're not going to get any recovery. And so, so we've got to sort of sort through that. But the other part of that is how do we get the ambulance paid for? Whether it's a combination of our internal self-insured claims piece. We know that if our limits are $250,000, so it'd have to be over that. But we are sort of sorting through that piece of that. But
Yeah, yes, sir. And I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman and Board, thank you for having me this afternoon. There's one piece of information that, I think the end result was still the same, but that I got a little incorrect last week, and that's that the other party's insurance in this matter has not accepted liability. I incorrectly stated that they had. So we're not, you sort of have a little bit of an impasse with those folks now, and that's why we've sort of led us down the path of looking at our internal insurance. So our risk manager, there's a little bit of a question about underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. And I'll tell you that our risk manager is going to go back to our carrier and sort of discuss some of those things. I don't think she felt like those particular policies were at play in this instance, but there may still be additional coverage that we can get for major repairs and replacements that frankly our internal budgets may not be sufficient to cover.
I'm assuming there's a police report on this accident.
Yes, sir.
And usually that sort of lends itself to, I guess, the support of fault.
There was not a determination of fault in this case because both parties, we disagree with each other. And so while the county apparently does have a witness out there, so there's a process ongoing with that. At this point, my understanding from our risk manager is that there is not a determination of fault that, we say we had a green light, they say they had a green light. We're in sort of one of those instances.
yeah, and they do not. They used to do exactly what you're saying. I was actually rear-ended 4 or 5 months ago, and they don't stipulate fault the way that has changed some. I was surprised by that. They stipulate the details of the occurrence, but it
Got it.
yeah, it's different anyway.
Kirby, just one question. Any additional costs to the county?
There could be additional claims-related costs that are outside of this vehicle repair, but I would not have specific knowledge of those, sir.
Yeah, I don't think there were injuries in this. Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 9 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for elevator and escalator maintenance services for various Forsyth County building locations. We competitively bid this. Numbers came in pretty high, and so we actually modified the bid a bit, and we have it within budget now. This would be not to exceed $299,083. There were some questions about sort of the nature of the changes. I think we've got most of those answered. If there's anything lingering, Kirby's here.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler. Second. Oh, second by Commissioner Lamine.
No, he seconded.
Commissioner Linville. Sorry, I didn't apologize for not hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, you have 2 appointments, and those were follow-on appointments, I think, from a previous meeting. Mr. Vice Chair, you can handle those, or I can do them either way.
Go for
I
it.
can go ahead. I can just simply say we have, we actually have a vacancy on the Commission for Ending Homelessness and for the Winston-Salem. Basically, there's one appointment to a 3-year term, and the capacity is a mental health representative. We had 2 citizens wishing to serve, Rochelle Smith and Richard Watkins, and please vote for one.
Richard Watkins has the same last name as our county attorney, Gordon Watkins.
Correct.
Just thought I'd point that out, Gordon.
Mr. Vice Chairman, Richard Watkins received majority vote.
You need to make friends with Richard.
We also have an appointment to the Smith Reynolds Airport Board. There's one appointment for a 3-year term, and it must be a county resident. We have 4 citizens wishing to serve: Michael Baum, county resident; Corey English, county resident; Sarah Jackson, county resident; and William Moore, county resident. Please vote for 1.
I saw a fellow named William Williams. Normally, a fellow named William is named Bill. Would that make him Bill Bills? Just something to pass the time with until we get the vote.
I think probably not.
Bill Bills.
Mr. Vice Chairman, William Moore received a majority vote.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
All righty. All right. Agenda item 12 is an ordinance revising Chapter 3 of the Forsyth County Code entitled Air Quality Control. Minor Barnett's here if you've got any questions, but as I understand it, this aligns our code with the U.S. EPA requirements. There's no practical impact on our operations.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. The next section of the agenda is tax administration, and John Burgess, our wonderful tax administrator, is going to come up and he's going to handle the annual settlement and the order to collect both for current year and the next year, and then we'll kind of dive through the rest of them. But he's got a presentation to talk about the amazing work his team has done this year. So,
He's used 2 terms to describe your work: wonderful and amazing.
Synonymous with taxation, I guess,
really important stuff.
from some perspectives. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Our pleasure to be here with you today to present to the collector's annual settlement. It is a required and annual report that we do provide to you. Let me get my one here. Okay. The actual report is about almost 300 pages long in hard copy. We have provided to you an electronic version, which I believe is much more portable and enjoyable for reading. But I've got a PowerPoint presentation for you today that will summarize some of that information and also detail some of our efforts around enforced collection measures that our staff pursues. Anytime we talk about collecting money, it's always good to talk about external factors. Certainly those can impact us in a positive or negative way. This year, have good news for you. The things like the unemployment rate is lower and has fallen since last year. So that's a good thing for the county. And also our total volume of bankruptcies is also down from what it was a year before. As a part of collecting taxes, we certainly have to process tax payments, and so I wanted to give you a little history of how that went over the last year. The top 3 items that you see on the PowerPoint bullets represent about 89,000 payments that our staff has processed in a very personal or hands-on manner. And so we had about 13,000 transactions at our counter throughout the year. The other 2 methods were also collected through the mail. Those are hand processed as well. We do some remittance processing as part of that, but every one of those is touched by staff very much. The bottom 3 items are how we process electronic payments to our office, and that totaled about 88,000 payments through that methodology. One thing of interesting note is that the amount of payments we receive through our website, where you can go on yourself and pay online. There is a fee associated with that, but if you remember, a couple of years ago, you authorized us to enter a contract with another vendor that had a lower rate for payment. And so I believe part of the increase of about 5,000 payments through that methodology is probably a direct result of those lowering fees. The cheapest way that you can actually do business with us to pay is through an e-check. And for 25 cents, you can securely get us an e-check. Today's postage rate stamp, I think, is 60 cents. So even that is a savings for you to do business with us in that way. But wanted to give you a little insight as to how that has possibly impacted our community for the better. It's also fair to talk about some of the items in our assessment workload. The number of registered motor vehicles we process every year stayed about the same. We certainly had an increase in informal and formal BER appeals. That's the result of the 2021 reappraisal. We worked those in the fiscal year that just ended, but we had a very low appeal rate for the reappraisal, but still that was up from what it was the year before. We processed about 30,000 or 31,000 valuation notices by staff. The number of deeds that we processed was pretty stable overall, but that is a 2-year high so far. About 4 years ago, we were about 11,000 deeds, if that gives you an idea. And the deeds that require us to do mapping changes, and in particular the plats, those represent numbers that are in excess of last year. And so that's part of that staff load component that we talked about earlier, and we certainly appreciate you awarding us the one tax assistant to help us in measures such as this. As far as phone calls, we did receive about 49,000 phone calls last year on our main line, and that was about 10,000 less than normal, or excuse me, less than last year, but last year again was where we had the reappraisal, and we had a lot of phone calls for that. But 49,000 is about our average amount of phone calls in a given year. In determining the collection rate, there's certainly a formula that we use here. We believe it to be the most accurate and best policy to use. I would caution you when you're comparing collection rates with other counties, they may not adhere to this particular formula, and so just wanted to bring that up just in case anyone asked. So in terms of county dollars alone, we had about $266 million that we were to collect. And as you know, you have until January 5th to make those payments without any kind of penalties or interest or anything. So on January 6th, what we looked at was what was not paid at that time, and that represented about $22.5 million in county money alone. So based on certainly the public and their money and our staff and their work in enforced collection, as of the close of business on June 30th, we were able to collect $20.7 million of that $22.5 million. So another way of looking at that is about 91.5% of the money came in on time. And of that did not come in on time, we were able to collect about 92% of that by June 30th. So the big question is always, how did we do for this current year? And we have excellent news to report that we have a collection rate of 99.35%. That's the highest we've ever had in this county. It represents our, I believe, our 7th year of collection rate above 99%. And certainly, you know, we couldn't do that without the support that you give us through our resources that we have, which are mostly our people and our programs. And so we really appreciate that. We really want to appreciate also the citizens of the county.
You are amazing. You're wonderful.
It's their money first, right? And so we're intercepting that, right, to fund the county needs. And so we do recognize and enjoy very much working with the citizens of the county in doing that. And also I appreciate working with the staff. We have a wonderful staff. I think there's five or so members here with us today, all of which are in collections in some way, and so certainly want to thank them as well. So very good year for us.
You know what? I don't think, as long as you've been tax collector, I've ever had anybody complain to me personally about how you operate or what you operate, but I said that kind of happily a while ago, that you're wonderful, but I swear to God, you're good. I mean, when you collect everything that's due us, we could pay our bills. It's just terrific.
Well, I can tell you, I personally collected $0 last year. That was all through the staff, and so certainly
Yeah.
they deserve that credit.
They're terrific too, yeah.
While the 99.35% collection rate is wonderful, I always like to look at it from the perspective of, well, how did we do with the money that we could go after? And so anytime that someone has filed bankruptcy, that money is protected. We cannot pursue that in forced collections. Anytime somebody has appealed a property tax value, they are not obligated to pay that tax bill at that moment. I can't go after that. Foreclosure does tie up some money for us because the foreclosure process can take some time. It takes anywhere from a year to 3 years typically to process something through bankruptcy. And so even though that is certainly a action that we are pursuing, it also is money on the table that I can't go after again, if that makes sense. So if you took those three things out, our collection rate would have been about 99.45%. And that ties back to some of our goals as a department. And so we're happy to be able to say that we've met our goal again this year as well. Here's a small history of our combined levy collection rate through the years, and so you can see how that has gone. Again, seventh year at 99% or higher. To be able to move the needle just 0.01%, we have to collect about $26,600 in county revenue alone. So it's a lot. It's a lot to make the needle move, and the staff knows that as they're working toward June 30th as well. We collect for all the municipalities in Forsyth County, and so every year there's some that go up and some that go down. This year, 4 of those went up over last year's rate. And as far as our prior year collections, we had a very strong year here as well at 34% collection on that. So we began the year with about $4.4 million in older prior year money on the table. Staff was able to collect $1.5 million of that. You might look at that number and say, well, John, 34% is less than 40 the year before. But 40 last year, there was an anomaly there with one particular account, and a very large account, and when they paid made all the difference in the world. Typically, we run around 30-31% collection rate on our prior year in a given year. And so this year being at 34% is certainly recognizing a solid performance there as well. When you look at municipal prior year collection rates, these do bounce around a lot. They're wildly erratic year to year, it seems like, and this year's no different. About 4 of those were able to be increased as well this particular year.
Sean, could I ask you one question about High Point? They seem to have a 100%. Is it just one person, or is it?
Well, it's close to one person. There are very few accounts that are actually in the city of High Point that are located in Forsyth County. And so the total volume of accounts is low, and everyone pays whether by June 30th they have anyway, whether they did so voluntarily or we helped them. So.
Okay.
100% does look good, but it represents a small amount of accounts, I will have to admit. More good news is that what our 11th year collection rate is. And we don't really talk about that a whole lot. I added this slide last year. And so what this is talking about is annual bills are able to be pursued by us in enforced collection techniques for 10 years. If we don't initiate that action, then that amount of money stays on our books, but it rolls out of my charge to be able to pursue it in some sort of enforced technique. And so while we're very happy about the 99.35% current year, the next number that we like to look at is the 11th year. So this is the amount of money that we didn't get to and won't get to. But in 2012, there was $216 million that was in the levy for us to collect. we were able to collect all of that in 10 years except $192,000. So that's a number that says that we collect 99.91% of all the funds that are due to us, at least within the 10 years. So that's a very strong number that we're very, very proud of. And hope that you are too. I mentioned enforced collection measures. I like this slide for several reasons. If you look at it from top to bottom, it would give someone an idea of the ways that we would go about collecting taxes in an enforced measure. We start off typically with debt set-off, and then we really like to write term agreements. We can garnish your wages. We can attach bank accounts. We can also do rent garnishments against properties that are owned and rented out for the property itself. And then last, certainly the thing that we don't want to do, but we will do if we need to, is foreclosures. So when we look at those, the debt set-off and wage garnishments were pretty stable over last year. We did see a little bit of decrease in our amount of term agreements, bank attachments, and foreclosures. It didn't, while it did decrease, it didn't alarm me as to how much it decreased, but we only have about 1,100 accounts in foreclosure. We're usually around 1,300 at a given moment. And so that's still pretty stable. But just wanted to give you an idea there of our enforcement measures. I have several asterisks all over this page. We are pursuing sometimes on one account multiple items, and so that's why some of these numbers are double counted and represent maybe the same account could show up in 3 different columns. So I wanted you to be aware of that. So for the year, we ended up not collecting $1.7 million. What we ended up with older money was $2.9 million, so that gives us a total of about $4.6 million that's on our books on June 30th that we did not collect over the last 10 years. That's one of the lowest amounts of money that's uncollected in about 10 years. So very happy about that as well. This slide talks more about what I would say is cash flow from the ad valorem tax system. So remember that registered motor vehicles are not in my charge. So while we appraise them and work appeals and work refunds, we are not collecting that. That's through this DMV when you renew your tag. But it is still an ad valorem tax. And so when you combine all of that together, what was budgeted for ad valorem taxes for the year was $288 million, and what came in over the year was $294 million. And so that represents about $5.5 million over budget, or about 1.9% over budget. So we're pleased about that as well. As far as goals for 22, 23, a lot of these don't really change too much, but as the chairman mentioned, we still place a high value and continue to work with people in need, and we're very particular about how we do communicate with our citizens or property owners in payment of taxes. So we place that very highly as something important to us, and hope that does pay off and continue to. We have had, just like many other departments, we've had a lot of turnover. Certainly that means that we need to increase our training of our employees, or cross-training, and we are working to, and we are doing that, and we'll continue to do that. Probably the biggest thing on here that I'm most excited about is I've got the word institute on here. Institute an in-rem foreclosure program, and we can do that thanks to your help in the budget process. And so in a lot of ways, it's really just foreclosure at the end of the day, but it's a way that helps us go about or solve certain delinquencies. In-rem presents a better technique of foreclosure versus mortgage style for some instances, and we have several properties that would fit this very well, and so I really thank you again for helping us in the budget with that. But we'll be able to institute that this year, and we hope to be bringing you a contract very soon for that program.
You know, one of the things I like to do in the morning and read, if I somehow figure out what's going on in this community, I read the Winston-Salem Journal. And, the other day, there was a little story in there that used a time-honored phrase, Christmas in July, and to me, this report is mighty close to it.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
And that's all that I have for the.
All right.
Any questions for John?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, Vice Chairman, but I do want to make some comments. John, the reason why I sit here today to become a commissioner was because of the tax rates and the inequities in District A. So I want to say that we have work to do, but you are doing the work, and I sincerely appreciate you. From over the time you've worked alongside this year with the NAACP and the Ministers' Conference, and we have someone from the Ministers' Conference sitting on the Equalization and Review Board, so I appreciate you taking your time. Anytime I need to come in your office with a constituent, you're always there to resolve them, and I appreciate your staff because customer service does matter. And I think that you're seeing the increase in that, especially in our districts, because of the service that you're providing, so thank you.
Thank you, and I'll pass that along to the staff, too.
You're welcome.
Just one 30-second comment, John. I had a senior citizen to call me who wanted to see if he qualified for assistance for some reduction in his tax base. He wanted me to tell you thank you through Mr. Dudley for showing him that process. He was not successful because he thought it was a day late. He was actually 30 days late. And the amount of money he earned was a little bit too much to qualify this year. But he really appreciated you taking the time and your staff to explain that process to him and to know that he could go through the appeal process if he has some concerns. So just another feather in your cap in that regard, and to your staff. I think you mentioned Ms. Velvet, who I've never met before, but she took the time to explain things to him in a very professional manner. So again, thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, so probably need to take action on these and probably should take, let's take action on them separately, at least items 13, 14, 15. Item 13 is a resolution approving the tax collector's annual settlement for fiscal year 2021 and 2022 and prior years.
Move approval.
Second.
Approval by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 14 is the order of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners in accordance with general statutes as listed there for the collection of 2021 and prior year taxes.
Move approval.
Motion by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion carries unanimously.
All right, and then item 15 rounds it out. It's the order of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners in accordance with the general statutes listed for the collections of the 2022 taxes.
Move approval.
Second.
Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 16 is a resolution denying a refund request to the tax assessor collector in the amount of $10,947.86. And John mentioned that last week at the briefing session.
Move approval.
Motion by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Items 17 and 18 probably can be taken together. Item 17 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor collector in the amount of $10,673.88. That's the North Carolina Vehicle Tax System. Then item 18 is the resolution approving the refunds by the tax assessor collector in the amount of $730.74.
Move approval on 17 and 18.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You got reports. You got item 19, the May 2022 contribution-based benefit cap report, and item 20, the North Carolina Tar Heel Legislature Conference settlement.
Move approval.
Second. Motion approved by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Limble. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, you got a couple of added items. Item 21 is an amendment to the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget ordinance. It appropriates funding for the low-income household water assistance program. Total amount $643,445. Of that, $96,518 is admin, and $546,927 are payments to the water utilities.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler, second by Commissioner Elamine. Any discussion?
I do have a question. So I know that the funding for the housing is completed, but this is new funding. Is that still available?
This funding is for the low-income household water assistance program. It's a
Right.
different funding.
Yeah, but
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
asking, so it's not resolved yet?
This low-income
This-
house,
mhm.
no, ma'am, we just got notification of this allocation, July 6th.
That's what I figured. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed?
All right.
Motion carries unanimously.
And item 23, 24, 22, 23, and 24, you probably can take together. Y'all finished the performance evaluations for some staff that report directly to you. So item 22 is a resolution adjusting the compensation of the county manager. Item 23 is a resolution adjusting the compensation of the county attorney. And item 24 is a resolution adjusting the compensation of the clerk of the Board of County Commissioners. So if you want to, you can take all those three together. And I know I can speak for, I think, Gordon and Ashley, and we just sure appreciate the opportunity to continue serving.
Move approval of 22,
Second.
23, and 24.
Motion approved by Chairman Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lamine. Any discussion? Just add thank you to all three of you for the great work that you do, and appreciate your service, as well as you like to serve. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And Mr. Vice Chairman, Chairman, that is it for the formal meeting. We do have the briefing, so we need a short recess for that.
All righty.
Done.
So do we have a motion to adjourn and then come back in 10 minutes? Commissioner Kaplan has moved that we adjourn and come back in 10 minutes. I'll second the motion. Adjourn.
Good.